Evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm meadsy69. Welcome back to some Hold My Tea. Yes, some OP replays. Today we have two replays in tier 9. Both of these replays is an insane amount of damage. Two Hall of Fames we have for you today. One of them is in the Conway and one of them is in the KPZ, the KPF. So yeah, both good tanks. Warm into the KPF. Didn't really like it when it first came out, but now I do kind of, I've changed my mind on the tank, and it's actually a very, very good tank. The same as the Conway. The Conway is a much better tank than some of the tier 9s out there, and if you're using the big gun, it is more enjoyable, as we are watching here from Memo. He is using the big gun, which means it has a high penetration hesh and it could do a great amount of damage. However, using the stock gun on the Conway has much better DPM. It has like almost 500 DPM more than this tank, this gun, but it's not as fun. It isn't as fun for me personally. I like the big alpha and I like the big hesh, the high penetration hesh. So surprisingly, his whole team have come this left side on Castilla. There is only one medium tank on the enemy team, so if he came this way, he would have been absolutely torn apart. But it looks like the whole enemy team have gone right. So Memo here, he's not going to go around with his team. He's going to sit here and he's going to wait for these tanks to come. Now, the first tank, the 50 TP, was spotted. Bit of a strange tank to be spotted first, and already they are in the spawn. They're in the green spawn. But as you can see, there is a few players still in their spawn on the red team, like they just didn't want to move. They're like, no, we're just gonna wait. We're just gonna wait here. So at the minute, I don't even know what's gonna happen, because the team are all over the place for the red team. Anyway, they need to rush really, because there's a couple of team members in the green spawn, there's a few in the red spawn, and there's a few in the middle, so they are literally all spread out. So a big rush, if these would have gone straight through instead of sitting here, they could have actually rushed the enemy spawn and taken care of them guys. But him, Memo, and his platoon mate here are just going to wait for these guys to come around, and these two alone are actually taking care of these guys. The T62 has come back, trying to be a hero here, rushing the 50 TP, and now this is the perfect opportunity to rush these guys. Now, I love the fact that they are ignoring the 50 TP and going for the IS-4. Beautiful HE shot, almost 700 damage with the Hesh, and that was a nice shot. And he's now a one-shot. If he can get another Hesh, he is now a one-shot, but he is isolated all on his own, and he is going to get dealt with very quickly. There we go. So that's the first kill for our guy Memo. But now these three tanks that came back, they have left the other tanks, so they are now being rushed. So they need to get into position very, very quickly to help these guys. The Death Star there, you can see, just gets torn apart. But if he's in this position, he's going to have some side shots, and hopefully he's going to have some beautiful Hesh shots. So he's going to wait for the Centurion. I thought he was going to go for the Centurion there, but he ignores him and goes for the 60 TP instead. So actually well played for the enemy here. Like, them rushing the left side or back to their spawn was the right choice, and they sort of, maybe it was luck, I don't know, but they see that the tanks were sort of isolated, and they've now got it down to a 3 versus 5. So they've done very, very well. But our guy Memo is going to put a stop to that. He's already done 3k damage, and his teammate actually does quite a lot of damage as well, I think, this game. So they've got a couple of tanks down, low hit points, but they need to work together here. They need to focus these guys, focus the lower hit point tanks, because it's still a lot of work. A 3 versus 5 is a lot of work. Now, hopefully the Centurion comes around this corner, because our guy he's got a max roll, and there goes the T62. So now it's got even more difficult. It is a 2 versus 5. Now, the one thing they could do is just wait for the guys to come up and sort of just pick them off one by one, or they could just relocate into a different position. So that was an important high roll there for the T60 on the T60 TP. Sorry, I will get it out, and that now brings him down to a one shot. So even though it's a 2 versus 5, there are a few one shots out there. So he gets a beautiful bounce there and a miss there from the E3. Now, that's the best thing for me about this Conway. It does actually have a very strong turret. You'll be surprised at how strong this turret is. Now, this silly E3 comes out sideways, not the best of choices, but he does get a shot on our Conway here, and there is the Centurion. So he needs to focus him. He's the quicker tank. He's got the Hesh as well. And for me, he's the most dangerous target out of the 4 tanks remaining. So he needs to deal with him very, very quickly. But they're just waiting, you know, they're biding their time. They're being very patient, and his teammate does take out the Centurion. He does get a shot into him, which is a shame because he's now a 1-shot. But now they've got it down to a 2 versus 3. Now, if they can focus fire on this waffle, it's just 1 shot each on this waffle. And and this is what I mean, like when you've got tanks like the waffle, the grill, the Borzik, and their full hit points, yeah, they're full hit points, but their hit points can soon go. Now, unfortunately for him, his teammate dies and he can't quite get his gun depression, but silly mistake there from the waffle. Very bad mistake, and ultimately that could cost him the game. So almost 6,000 damage now, and it's a 1 versus 2. The 60 TP, sorry, the ST1 and the E3. Now he really, if he can get behind this E3, he needs to do that, or he needs to ignore him and try and find this ST, because 1 shot from the E3 and 1 shot from the ST, it will be game over for him. So is he gonna? Yes, he is gonna. He's gonna risk a shot there, and again he gets a nice bounce from that guy. So the E3 at the moment is not in a dangerous position, and he's in a great position here, and he's not looking at running away. He's looking at just waiting, because if the E3 wants to come up here, he's going to have to sort of show his rear, and he's going to be able to get behind him. And that was a nice shot into the turret, a beautiful HE shot. Now he is going to reload before the E3, so now he's taking that opportunity to drop down and take this guy out, totally ignoring the ST. The ST does come down and shoot him, but at this point it's now a 1 versus 1. Again, if he can get to the behind him or at the side of him, then he could actually win this game. But at the minute, it's not looking great unless he gets another bounce. But that was a nice high roll, and that was a bad miss from the ST. Now he's a 1-shot. He could just get behind him. He's going to reload before him. He can even take another shot here, but he doesn't need it. And a nice bounce again, 420 bounce. But overall, fantastic game. A 2 versus 4, 2 versus 5 there, and he still pulls off the win. 8,700 damage, a well-deserved Kolobanov. 219,000 credits that earned there, thanks to this new credit system. Very nice carry. Very nice carry indeed. So next up, we are the KPF. The KPF, and now, as I've said, I didn't really like this tank before. I have always said, like in tier 10, it wasn't for me. It didn't really perform too well. It struggled. When this tank first came into the game, it was a complete shit tank. Wargaming buffed it a few times, I believe, and now I always said after the buffs, it was good in tier 8. It was very good in tier 8, but when you come into tier 10, that's when it kind of struggles, because of the penetration, the reload, everything like that. But having played the tank more and more, I enjoy it more. It doesn't have the best armor profile. The turret, I mean, is okay, and it can bounce, but other than that, it's not really got any armor on the side or the lower plate or anything like that. So you do have to bear that in mind. So he's just going to play forward now. He's in a good position. He's hiding his hole, and he's just got a little ridge line he has in front of him to protect him from these guys. Now, if you look at the minimap, literally 6 of the enemy team are all spotted, so he can be a bit more aggressive on this VK45, which again isn't the best of tanks. Even after the buffs, it isn't the best of tanks. So now all 7 tanks have been spotted. If he wanted to, he could play a bit more aggressive and push this VK45, but he also needs to save his hit points. He don't want to use or waste any hit points unnecessary. So he is going to go for him, and he gets a nice high roll there, leaves him on 31 HP. Unfortunately, couldn't quite clear him, but he is now just a HE shot. Now, the KPF is actually quite good at ammo racking. Not quite sure if we're going to see an ammo rack this game, but if you could play this tank in things like Mad Games and stuff like that, it can actually ammo rack quite a lot of tanks. But just like the first game, oh well, not now, but they were down. It is now a 5 versus 5, 2.2k damage, and he is going to play behind now. He's going to try and get to the behind these guys or at the side of him, and just get a bit of free damage into these into the red team before he sort of relocates even more. Now at this point, do you just stay where you are because the team are pushing, or do you go round and try and get behind them? But at the moment, he doesn't need to do anything. He's just going to sit here because he does have these shots, and as soon as he sees the team starting to push, he is going to go round and try and take care of these guys. Now, he is going to focus the Tortoise first. It's probably the easiest tank to deal with, and it's got a very good DPM. So taking that care of that guy is quite important, but it wasn't a must. I mean, he could leave him until last because he doesn't quite have the speed or anything like that. And I mean, look at this HE. He could have actually HE'd the T32 from the side there, but he chose to go for the APCR. Probably didn't want to risk it, but he could have gone for the HE there onto that guy. So it's now a 3 versus 4. He needs to make every shot count because there's still a few full hit point tanks to deal with, and now, just like the first game, it's a 2 versus 4 and a lot of work to do. But currently 5,000 damage, so he's already done his part. He's already, even if he dies now and it's a loss, at least he can hold his head up high and said, I tried, I did my best. But he's not going to end there. He's going to try and take care of this T32. Doing so, that was actually risky there. He was turning, and he had a high chance of bouncing that guy. But he's trying to get out of the way from the guy shooting behind. He's trying to help this AMX 5120 against this WZ 120. Hopefully the AMX shoots him before, but no, he doesn't quite get the shot. But he does destroy his ammo rack, but it just wasn't enough to ammo rack the guy. But he does bring him down to a 1 shot. If this AMX would just freaking penetrate him. It's not the best tank in the world. Come on, AMX, just freaking take him out. Nope, we're going to leave it to the KPF. So now 3 kills, 2 versus 2, and it's all to play for at this point. The KV4 and the VK168 are very, very healthy, but luckily for our guy in the KPF, they're not the best of players. They are not the best of players. 6.8k damage now, so he's already done a remarkable job. You don't often see this much damage in the KPF, and there is still a lot of damage left to go. So he's going to go now from the side. There goes the AMX, so he is now on his own. But these two tanks are pretty close together. If they both rush, then they could easily win this. But if they just both sit back whilst they let the KPF reload, then it's not going to be good. Now, what tank do you go for? He is going to go for the KV4, and he gets a beautiful high roll now. 8,000 damage. 8,000 damage. I don't think I've ever seen as much damage in the KPF, like, ever. And there is still 600 hit points to go. And yet again, another bounce. It gets a beautiful shot into the hatch there, leaving that guy on 24 hit points. He can still take a shot from the VK168, but he's going to load up the HE, like I say always to do. When you've got a big gun and you've got a tank that's only on 20 odd hit points, just load up the HE and just splash him, and it will be enough. But again, like the first battle, a nice comeback and a very nice win with a beautiful amount of damage. 8,640 damage, 251,000 credits earned. A beautiful game indeed. So thank you guys for sending me those replays. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm meadsy69, and I'll catch you soon. Bye bye. With